Hello, welcome back to franchise mode. Today we finished off the bear tunnel exhibit habitat. Anyway, welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time, welcome. I hope you enjoy the bear tunnel. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do consider hitting that button down there. Anyway, there's some screenshots of a little bit of the finished product. So we're starting over here. We finished the other side in the last episode, so if you want to go check that out, you can take a look at that. All the franchise modes are mostly real time. Sometimes I'll speed a few things up just to try to keep the episode within an hour. This build obviously took a long time as it was 3 episodes long. Right here, I was trying to just change the path, so I sped that up. It's not super hard, just going around and re-clicking each little spot, changing settings. I wanted rails at certain points, and at some spots I did not. So there was one little one right here that gave me trouble, so I came back to it. It kept deleting the curve, but I did want rails on it, so I had to delete further down to get it to keep the curve without stairs. So I did take out my fight with the path system. And so now we're just going around and duplicating these concrete walls, and almost all of these around the curve have been split out into their own group. So you can see right there, I am splitting it so that I thought I hit split. There we go. So I can hit X and turn it to get it to fit. On some of them, I did actually use the curve, like right over there. I used a curved piece. Most of them, I used the straight piece and just turned it, and then used X to get it lined up with everything else. So just using those arrows and hitting X again to get the spinner so I could line up each edge and come around to create the curve as we go down into the bear tunnel. I haven't decided what I'm going to put on this side of the habitat yet, so I kept it closed. Even if I do put something over there, I'll probably not add any windows. I do have windows on this side. I take that back. I forgot. I did put windows. But anyway, I don't know what I'm going to put over here. I don't want to do anything too interesting because the guests will just stop and clog and look. But it is a good little lookout. I was super happy with how this habitat actually turned out. I made a few mistakes in the beginning. I should have done their swimming area a little bit differently, but that's okay. My original idea was I wanted the tunnel to go through directly as you leave the sun bears, which is the habitat across from this, and it was just too close to the water feature, and I'd already built a lot, so I didn't want to go back and re-terrain to get this to work a different way. So I just brought the tunnels around however it would let me. That was in episode 1 of this, not episode 1 of the series, but that was 2 episodes ago. So if we're at 10, that would have been episode 8. And so over here I decided, since I knew I was going to use glass, I was duplicating both of those at the same time. So what I do is I'll split it, and then I'll copy, and then I'll rotate and move. And so a lot of times I'll duplicate the group, set it down. Once it's been split, you can highlight it and hit Control X as its own group. And sometimes it will let you go ahead and duplicate that way. And so you can see right here it did. If you're inside the group, it will not let you do that because you're in the grid. And sometimes I'll set it down and then split it out like I did right here. I think it was giving me trouble, so I had to do it this way. It's because a lot of times it thinks you want to be in the group to edit when really you don't. But little quirks of the game and just manipulating the building how I want it versus staying in that grid. It does make for roofing difficulties. I really did struggle to get the roofs done on these pieces. I really like how the other roof turned out. This roof turns out pretty good too. I'm not 100% excited about how the roof came out, but overall, I'm pretty happy with this habitat as a whole. So I'm just looking around, seeing how these edges are connecting with each other, and I was thinking for a moment about how this was going to connect on that side, and then I decided I'll just redo that. I'm gonna leave this where it is. I like how this is with the glass, so I'm gonna go ahead and set that down. I'm gonna get rid of these pieces here, or move them so that they'll connect nicely to the other side. And I think that's where I made the decision to go ahead and keep the glass as we come around instead of blocking the view completely. And that also allows for the natural light to come in to this tunnel area as well, so that I don't have to worry about too much lighting during the daytime. I can't talk. Anyway, good morning, Ruby. So yesterday normally is the day I would put out this video, which is on Tuesday. It is Wednesday morning for me right now, and Monday, they said there was a tropical storm coming. I live in Houston, and so Tuesday night we spent getting the outside ready so that we wouldn't have any potential projectiles from our patio, and woke up yesterday to a downed fence. So my husband and I stood out in the rain with the neighbor and propped our fence back up so that we can keep our 2 huskies and our corgi in our own yard and not in our neighbor's yard. So that's why the video is late. I'm sorry about that. When I got home yesterday, I still had to work. We just had a delayed start. So I was tired, and my husband wanted to play video games. I didn't have the heart to make him be quiet for an hour while I talk over this video. So I'm doing it this morning before work, and hopefully you guys like this habitat as much as I enjoyed putting it together. I'm super excited about where we're going to go next with the zoo. I'm really trying here just to get that nice curve, and I'm thinking about how I'm going to bring this in to match. So I had to really make this curve match up and make sure it wasn't sticking out on either side of, from the right side or the left side. I guess I could have put rocks here. That's an idea too. If you just want to set that down, you could put some rocks in to cover up that wall so that it's not obviously sticking out. I just went for straightening it up and trying to get it to meet that other piece, and I think it was a little too dramatic with how it met. So I did give it a little bit of a spin again and moved it around. So when they're super close together like this, it is a little harder to figure out how you want them to come together. So I'm looking at my options. Do I want it inside? Do I want it outside? Can I get it where it's gonna line up and not quite be visible? Under there wasn't too big, because if you're walking along, you're not really going to notice that those are like that. So I went ahead and just set that down, and I decided I would try one of these glass pieces and see how that looked. But then I realized it may still, because I got it from the other group, it may still show. So I'm going to set it down and see if it's visible or not. And with those glass pieces, you do have to make sure they're all facing the way you want them to, where the glass is on the outside or on the inside. And I was pretty happy with how that set down. It hid for the most part. I just needed to give it a little bit of nudge to kind of meet up with its buddy there and not have the gap. And there we go. So we have that little section, and I did go back and put rocks in eventually. I do show most of my rock work. I didn't show all of it. As I went back to do the tour for this, I found some areas that I did forget, so I just went ahead and did that off camera. So I did add rocks right there where I'm roofing. I put in the snow rock, the cladding rock, I believe it's called. I'm not sure how you say that. Anyway, for a while I did toy with the idea of allowing the bears to be able to get on top of this roof. However, I changed my mind with that. I decided I did not want them to be able to get up on top of the roof, just for boundary reasons. The binturong habitat sometimes alarms, even though they're not really able to escape, and I have the barriers super high that they're escaped. Really, they're just on the roof, so I ignore it. But they're not considered a dangerous animal, so I don't really bother with anything for them. So I decided here to use the 1 meter glass. I like how it had the squares, so if you use the 2 meter, it has a different look. It has smaller squares, so I went ahead and did 2 of the 1 meter glass pieces, so it would have the smaller glass look up here. And realizing that my little square was a little bit long, or my rectangle I should say, so I wanted to elevate this part of the roof just a little bit, mostly because I was coming up to the water feature there and had made that decision. I really did not want the bears to be able to get up here, so I wanted to elevate this and keep the glass look that I had going with the concrete and the modern glass. So I went ahead and did it this way and elevated this little section of the roof to give some definition, let a little more light in. And I also am going to put some rocks through here, so hopefully if the bears actually are using that, if you're coming down the tunnel, you would be able to see them if they're walking along that little rock thing that I'll put in a little bit later. And I went through several different roofing ideas here. I went ahead and just got rid of that piece because I knew I was going to be overlapping these pieces here, but then I didn't like the hole it made over there, so I put the curved one back. And so when you are doing floors or roofs like this with these pieces, they will fight each other with the Z fighting. They're on the same plane, so that surface is going to create that wave look as the two pieces fight each other to be the one that the computer decides to render, and that's what creates that wave. So I do go back once I get done and in my final rendition of how I'm going to excuse me, I'm going to put this roof together, and I find the ones that have overlapping pieces and go ahead and give them a little nudge up and down so that they do not fight each other. I tried a couple of curved ideas. I didn't like them. I made some groups, away from here and put them up. I tried about 3 or 4 different ideas. So there I go, getting rid of that curved piece again, and just went with that one because it was leaving a little gap. I was really trying to avoid too much overlap because I really was trying to not overlap a whole lot of pieces. And so I'm trying to find the shape that I want here. And so I decide I'm going to get rid of some of this. I'm going to go ahead and maybe split it. There we go. And I'm going to line it up to make this look a little different. And just kind of have one curve right there and then another curve out there a little differently. So I did try, just a square look, but it looked really awkward and I don't really have anything over here. So it didn't make sense to have the roof come out and cover up. I don't know what my dog is doing, if y'all can hear that. I'm so sorry. Anyway, so I end up doing this with it and lining it up to that curve right there so I can bring all of it together a little bit differently. But maybe when I put an animal in, because it does overhang a little dramatic right there, I'll put in a support beam on the edge out there and, bring an animal kind of close. Because I think I am going to do another bear right here since we have all the other ones. So I may put a grizzly bear in over here, or maybe the black bear. We'll see. If you have a opinion of what bear would go good right here, so going down the bear tunnel, let me know. But that would make sense, I think, to kind of bring another bear habitat around into this area. But before we do that, so there's a couple episodes in between, I am going to build the gondola ride. I'm just going to throw in a little sketchy one around our tiny park. That way I can at least have the loop here, and I want to build the kind of entrance with the gondola. So as you come in, you have the gondola station right there. So that's my plan for next episode. I don't know what my corgi was up to. He was pushing something around the house and it was making a lot of noise on the floor. So you can see I kind of left that little ledge there. And as you look at it from high above, you can kind of see the pieces that are hiding because I'm still in the group. Once I get out of the group, it won't show those. And so I'm just building on that same grid right here in the corner. One of those little pieces to match, what I've got going on and all the roofs here with that little elevated green space. And then I'm going to go ahead and highlight all of those once I get these in their correct spot. I'm going to turn that around. Sometimes when you highlight two, it won't go into the right side of the line. So I'm going to highlight all of those and then split them from that group so I can slide them over to the spot that I want them to be in. So we're going to split, hit X, and get our arrows and give it that nudge. So I'm getting kind of close in to try to eyeball where the middle is. If you're like me, sometimes I do throw out a piece to measure with, so I could have stuck something on the edges of these to get that more exact. I decided I'll just eyeball it, and we're going to grab these guys. I'm going to copy, and then I'm going to exit the group so they're not part of that group, and let the game attach them to this group, and put that over here, and slide that into place. Make sure it's touching the top, slide it over, and there we go. And the bears really seem to like their habitat here. They're always going up and down and into that water feature. It's really fun to watch them do that. By the end of the build, they have 2 bear cubs. So it's really enjoyable as I was building to watch the little bear cubs run around. Because once I get the whole thing closed off, I'll go ahead and hit play again so that, my zoo can generate some money, because we are in franchise mode. So we do want to leave it playing as much as we can. Unfortunately for this zoo, it is hard to do because it's a tropical zoo, as I put in this tundra habitat. But it is a tropical zoo and it rains a lot. So I was also taking the opportunity here to keep the sunlight, because I know it is hard to watch building when it's dark and raining. So I was trying to take opportunity here with the light, and that's another reason I kept it paused. It's hard for me to build in the dark and in the rain, and it's also hard for you guys to see it. When I loaded the zoo to do the walkthrough, it was raining, and I started to build the gondola ride, and then I realized I need to do the walkthrough still, and I don't want the gondola there yet. So I went around and did that little extra rock work and just didn't bother putting it in. So you'll see some of it, because I also finally got sunlight and did the walkthrough and found a couple other things I needed to fix that had been wrong. A couple of times I've walked through here, So some rocks will just appear, but you do get to see some of it. This changes a little bit right here. I had really hoped I could get them kind of down and into this little nook with a bigger slope, but the hitbox on the bears is a little bigger than I thought it would be. So I kind of decorated this side and then covered it up and then moved some of these and took them away after the fact. The front side I left alone, of course, after I got it done. I was trying to see if that paint tool would turn the sides white. It would not, so I gave up with that and went back to putting in some rocks. When I load the zoo next, when I was looking at the coverage for the bear for the plants, I am not sure if I went back and did that or not. I don't remember, so I'll need to double check and make sure that they do have enough coverage in their habitat for them plant-wise. I want to make sure they're happy. Happier animals give healthier animals with better genetics. So you do want to make sure that they're happy, and they'll also breed more when they're happy. And so just little things I've learned about the game. I mean, the better the genetics of the bear to begin with, of course, the better genetics you're going to get out of the offspring. But the happier they are, it seems, the more offspring they'll give, as well as it seems that a lot of times the babies will have better genetics as well. So I'm changing the rocks around a little bit to give just different textures and colors as it goes through there. So I'm also going to pop inside the building, make sure that these rocks are not sticking out. Sometimes what I'll do when I'm doing a lot of rock work, I didn't do it here, is I'll plunk out different options for the rocks. But since I was advanced moving all of these to specific spots, I went ahead and just scrolled through the menus to get through doing this piece. But sometimes I'll just chunk them all out. But since I wanted them to kind of keep the same rotation, I didn't want them just kind of willy-nilly in there. I wanted a little more control over how the rocks got placed. I decided just to scroll back and forth between the two types of rocks that I was going to use here and just nudge them around and cover up where the terrain, doesn't quite meet my building here, because I had decided I wanted to build as close as I could to that path that created the tunnel. But, obviously the terrain leaves that little gap there. So I wanted to cover that up. So now we're inside. I'm going to go ahead and click on all these rocks and give them a nudge back to the outside. I didn't want them sticking through. And I did go along through the tunnel and put little rocks along the path. I don't think that's in the video. So anywhere the terrain was sticking out, where the tunnel goes through, you can see a little bit down there on the bottom. When I was building the tunnel cover, I had decided, I wanted to keep the curb as my barrier for the walls more so. So I just went ahead and put a few rocks down there to cover up where the terrain comes through the wall, instead of allowing my guests to be able to walk through the wall, because where there's a path, that's where they're going to go. They ignore all the things you build and walk right through it. So thank you, guests. But anyway, so continuing on with the joys of rock work. It's my least favorite thing. I think I say that every time. But I do like the looks that it gives. It's definitely worth it. I've gotten a lot better at it. It used to just terrify me when I first started playing the game, of doing rock work and trying to, duplicate what I was seeing in other people's work as far as how they used it, how they placed them, using those techniques, not so much duplicating, but trying to figure it out in my own zoos. So it can be really intimidating, at least it was to me, because they just look so good. And when I first started trying to do rock work, mine always looked just crazy, to me anyway. But it is a good feature to do. It adds, I think, a great character to this building here as they go down into the ground, and you have those rocks up against the edge of the building there. And still rock work, just getting those into place. Over here I did decide to kind of let some of these tilt a little differently, and I'm regretting that decision just a little bit. It made it a little harder to get this in here and not have it come through, not have it block my my window too much. So just repeating that process all the way around to cover up this funky little divot in the ground where the path had come in. So going back in, finding my rocks, and if you don't use X, they'll just kind of willy-nilly themselves around the game. I have a line surface on, so it'll flip the rocks around, and sometimes I do like that the game does that, and I want that. Other times I don't want it flipping them around. So as you can see, I just kept the X going. I didn't hit M for move to let it just free move on the cursor, so they'd quit trying to follow that divot and land in my building. And then right here I started going for rocks that were a little less large and had more, you have a less flat surface on the top of them to fill in these little spaces. So just, I'm trying to see how that one will fit in. This one I did try just using shift, and then that's another method, is using shift and control to move them around, and that's what I'm doing here. So there's a lot of ways to go about the rock work, and they're all really effective. I'm just not always the best with the shift method. It, letting it kind of land and then using shift to put it in the ground. Right here is just a real tight space, so I've got a lot in the way. I wasn't able to really utilize that method, and I'm trying to cover quite a bit here and give it that nudge to meet the wall. So for these, I used those, they're more flat pieces, but they're really long, mostly because I didn't want super thick rocks, but I wanted that flat top edge that piece has. And I was switching between two different ones with their color schemes, just trying to give that little alteration of color, differentiation of color, whatever word I'm looking for. I'm gonna bring one over here, and I picked a little bit more of a boulder rock, and I'm gonna scoot that this way because I could see it was going inside. I think I changed my mind on the rock. I liked the boulder rock, but I really did not want the rocks going through my wall. I really did enjoy how this building came out. I could have, I guess, covered up all that wall and made it all rock and then just had glass on top. That would have been pretty too, but this was how I wanted it to be, so I did not want to change the feel of the building yet. I wanted that building to continue all through the journey of the tunnel, to have that concrete look. And then I do end up taking some of these rocks out. They got in the way of the bears being able to get into this corner. I put in a couple of different things over there, and I ended up taking those out too off camera as I was trying to fix the traversable area. And I'm not sure why that's a thing, but it really seems, with climbing animals, for me anyway, if they can climb over, they don't ever register that area as traversable for some reason. I was trying out that ice rock. I don't know. It didn't do it for me too much. I just kind of gave it up. I was let me stick it in here, see what it looks like. It was just too blue for me. I just didn't like it. So I just stuck with the ice rock, and good grief. The snow-covered rock in this one. Just trying to cover up some of that terrain and still give a little bit of snow feel over here, and letting the game kind of decide how these rocks are going to land. And then I looked in there and I was like, I'm not going to worry about it. If they peek through, they peek through. I could go around and put rocks on the inside too, but I didn't. I didn't want to mess with the swimming area of the rocks. Of the pears by putting in rocks inside. I wanted to make sure that the rocks didn't disrupt their space in there. So I just left it the way it was. So just going around and letting the rocks land, seeing how they look as I push them down. I didn't like that one, so I'm gonna come over here, plop some more. I'm trying to keep just the same rock, and then I'll go back, pick a different rock, and do the same thing. That one lined up a little funny, but that's okay. And trying to get them to align to the surface, and just use shift to give them that little gentle nudge into the terrain. Going for whatever the game kind of gave me to put this together, and that's how rock work goes for me anyway. There's really no set plan to it. I just kind of, if I like it, I go with it. If I don't, I'll back out and get rid of some of it, or put different rocks in those spaces. So I really was just going for covering up that terrain, making this look a little more supported. And right here, I decided to use some of the bigger snow rocks, since it is snowy on this side. I'm kind of wondering if maybe I should have put some sort of, dome on this, because it is so cold in here. Theoretically, how would it stay so snowy? Realistically, and being in a tropical area and it's just wide open, would there really be that much snow? So maybe I'll go back and put in a little more glass on the top of this to, really keep their enclosure a little more realistic with actually having snow. Realistically, it would need some kind of cover to keep it cold in here. If this is a legit tropical area, it would be way too warm to keep that snow with the sun, unless they had some really powerful coolers. Because I know sometimes, they'll make snow for fun and stuff, but it's already kind of cold, not, super hot, or it's done indoors, of course. Being in Texas, we don't have a lot of snow down here in the south, so I've seen a couple of times where they, in the wintertime, it's like in the 60s or 50s, they'll have snowmakers and stuff like that, and they're able to create a little outside space that actually has some snow. But anyway, enough about that. So I'm just going around and, changing the colors of the rocks, doing the same thing I did on the other side, just picking between a couple of different styles of rock, different colors. So I really wanted to give this a natural feel on the outside of this obviously man-made circular terrain pit. So anyway, we're almost hopefully to the end of this rock work. Sometimes I will speed these up, because to me, I feel like once you've seen some rock work, it's just rock work. I think it's just because it's not my most favorite thing. I don't enjoy it all the time. Sometimes I find it to be, it is a puzzle, and it uses quite a bit of brain power sometimes. Everybody has their strengths, and I don't find rock work that relaxing. I find it to be kind of a little stressful for me, because it just doesn't always come out the way I envision, or it's tedious, and I'm really thinking through what rocks to use. And so because of those aspects of rock work for me, I would imagine most viewers don't enjoy watching rock work at a slow snail pace that I sometimes do rock work in, trying to get them to, land in the places that I want them to, which is why I tend to use the advanced move quite a lot instead of just throwing them down with shift and control. That is just not my forte. And I can see right there the wall underneath is flickering. It took me a while to figure out what that was. I saw it. I was like, what is that? Later I figured it out. So I did highlight that wall and shift it down a little bit so it wouldn't be fighting with the ground, which was a new one for me. I haven't encountered that before, where the building pieces are fighting with the ground. I guess I just found the sweet spot for that on accident. So I was trying to decide right here, how much of this did I want to really, come in contact with the glass, or did I want to move barriers? So this is the backside of their habitat, and I'm just putting in a little rock work to create their barrier back here. So kind of like with the sun bears, they have just a little bit of a natural barrier versus all concrete barrier. So for this side, since there is so much going on with the concrete, I didn't want to connect these two in that way. I decided I'll go with a natural barrier and use the rocks to keep the bears in the habitat over here, should they decide to come over here. Unfortunately, they really don't. I probably need to move some better enrichment that they really want to use to this side. I did put, sorry about that, some climbing trees in here from one of the newer packs. I think it was from the Southeast Asia, where they put in some climbing, scratching trees that are fake trees but look like a real tree. So I did put some of those back here, but it's not, I guess, a high enough enrichment for them that they're really that interested in coming over here on their own. I'm not gonna lie, for the walkthrough, I chunked one over here. I said, Bear, you will go over there so I can get a picture. It hung out long enough for me to get a picture and then just ran up the ramp, so at least I know it works, and went back to the other side of the habitat. That's okay. And as I was perusing around, I realized I had the water temperature control, but I did not, or I had the water filter to keep it clean, but I didn't have a water temperature control. So I needed to put one in, and the spacing for that was a little tricky because I needed it to, reach over there to control the water itself. But that negative space is also, something you have to worry about for the negative impact on the guests. So I kind of stayed in this mode for a little bit while I built this. So sorry that it's in heat map mode, so to speak. I let those just snap. These decided they wanted to be, not friendly. They snapped kind of funny. So I advanced moved them to get them onto the sides so that it would match. And I was hoping that this would be just enough to get that red circle out of the path right there, where you can see on the left that, if guests are walking super close to the wall, they're going to complain about that staff facility, really, that they can't see because I've just covered it up. But whatever. So I'm going to put a wall here. And one little tip that I have found out about these is when you use the same pieces over and over again, it doesn't seem to affect the scenery rating as much as when you really use variation around them. Because I've seen when I've just kind of built different buildings that have a lot of different things going on around them, sorry, my husky came over to get a pet. She had something to say. That was Chloe. But anyway, back to what we're doing right here. So I have found that the more variation you use in your plants or your building or whatever you're doing around these staff facilities, and at least in my opinion, seems to bring that circle down a lot faster than if you use the same plant like I am right here. I was really just hoping the simple, would be just enough, and it wasn't. So I should have done a little more variation as I put these down around it, because I had just really hoped that the plant wall would be enough on the concrete with where I had placed this to get the job done. So here I went ahead and I'm checking, and it's so close. It's so close. I could have grabbed it and moved it over, but I think that if I did, it's not gonna quite reach the water. There's another heat map for that, so you can see the low welfare on my poor bear. It has to do with it. It's swimming in hot water, not cold water. So I grabbed this tree to kind of hide my staff path here, to make it look less interesting for a guest to walk through, or if they're looking down here, they're really not going to see too much. They're just going to see plants. So I went ahead and just used X, and then would hit X again and give them a little spin. And when you do that though, you can see the arrows aren't always super friendly. So I would spin and try to get the arrow how I want it to move it, but also it's to give some variation to the top of this plant that I've decided to stick into the ground to be a bush. So I'm just scooting these around to, kind of cover up this pathway a little bit. So hopefully if guests look down here, they're like, oh, that's boring. I don't want to go down there. I could put, some poles and a little editable sign and write staff only on it. I could do that too. So I'm hoping that once I get done with this, it will be enough plants and scenery to bring that negative radius down. Another thing I could have done is hung some decorations from the construction menu, like some wall art on the inside of that first, little thing. And if you don't care about looks, you can shove all kinds of things in there. I've done that on one of my builds. It was an entrance, and I had the staff, the break room, a little too close. It's the Indian entrance, and there we go. So it's still kind of on that wall a little bit, which made me nervous. So I am going to add a few more plants so that I can get that red off of the wall, just in case. This is the last notification I want, is that, staff facilities. But anyway, on that Indian entrance, I took that staff room, and since I'd already built all around it and had forgotten to even check for that, I went inside of that staff building and just shoved as many plants as I could until that radius, went as small as it can, so that it was at 100% scenery. So that is something you can do, because you can click on it and see it says 77, I think, and I'm like, okay, cool, it's not touching over there anymore, we're done. Just different ways to do it. I have some that just are covered. So this was my first attempt at getting the bears over here. I end up just deleting this after I had given up on it. I was like, I'll fix this later. I'm not going to spend a ton of time trying to get them into this side of the map, because I did spend quite a bit of time trying to figure it out. I had this problem with the binturong habitat as well, with trying to get them from one side to the other. The sun bears, I struggled with it too. I'm not really sure why they can't just use a climbing thing and land on the ground. I did see one do it and get over there, but they wouldn't get off the platform. They would just climb back over. It was really weird, even though the platform's on the ground. So I really was trying just different things to get them to be able to get over here. But like I said, this was the first attempt. I do keep some of these rocks that got put in. I think that what was wrong with this first one is it just wasn't wide enough for them, game-wise, to traverse this entire thing. And also, one good thing about having something that they can walk along is you're also creating something for your staff to also be able to get over there and clean the other side of the habitat. Otherwise, they won't be able to. So I just left the first rendition in. As we go through the walkthrough, you'll see what was there, and getting other notifications. So we'll go ahead and go through those. So I'm looking at my work zones to see what's wrong, and it looks like I have not included, the staff buildings like I should in some of the work zones, and I don't have the bear work zones yet. And so I'm looking to see, does everybody that I have a work zone for have access to the buildings? And it looks like they don't. So I was fixing that really quick, and I do need to create the work zone for the bears. I was kind of waiting until I got a little more done with it to actually put in the work zones. I do have the staff out there, of course. So this is the first building thing, climbing thing I built for them. I was trying to just keep it simple. I just wanted them to be able to walk over here, climb down this pole, and boom, they have access. But it did not work that way. And like I said earlier, it just baffles me. I don't understand. And it is starting to get dark. Sorry about that. So I was like, my idea just to test it was to, at least kind of make it look supported. And if it worked, I would have made it a little better. And it did not work. So I ended up just taking this out. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is for that. If anybody does know, let me know. I am not the master of climbing frames, that's for sure. So I finished there. That was when I gave up. I tried a couple other things. I took that out of my editing. And I came back to it actually after I'd done all the editing and I was getting ready for the walkthrough. I was like, let me see if I can get them down here one more time. And I did. But it was all with rocks. So we're back in our tunnel. We're going to finish off the walls that need to be closed off in here. Now I'm kind of thinking about how I wanted to do it. So I'm going to copy two at once and set it down and then highlight those two. Not that one, not that one. Nope. All right, we're going for 4. Just kidding. I think I end up splitting one of these out as well. It just didn't work as well as I thought it would. Maybe it will work. I don't remember. But just getting these lined up nice and pretty. It's tedious work. My mouse is a little sensitive sometimes. Also, my hand is not always that steady, so it does take me several back and forth to try to get that working. So we're gonna go ahead and split this one out. And yeah, I decided I wanted that one to curve a little more. So we're gonna do that and then bring it into the curb and give it a little more spin so I can get a little closer and just find the sweet spot. And of course, like I said in the other video, it's up to you how you do these. I like to stay a little bit on the outside of the curb. The reason for that, like I said earlier in this video and the other video, is because I do not like my guests walking through the walls. So if you line these up on the curb to cover the curb, they may phase through the walls a little bit. And so personally, I don't like that. It's up to you. Some people don't like the curbs, so they cover up the curbs. I chose to leave the curb, and there's no way to get rid of it when you're on a quote-unquote elevated path with it, which this is an elevated path. I'm looking for the other group to try to come around the other way, and also put in some flooring because I felt like, I didn't want it just to look down onto the dirt. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of use this piece as a starter for leveling out with what's on the right side. And then I'm going to go ahead and exit that group and split it out and just nudge it a little more so that hopefully I can cover up that dirt that's underneath, so that it's not just a, the dirt spot down there that's actually got a floor. So I just kind of blindly chunked those down where I knew you could kind of see underneath. I highly doubt the guests care, but I did. So I went ahead and just threw in some floor right through here, so that as I did this wall, it wouldn't matter if there's a little bit of a gap. You do have kind of some flooring down there as you come down to meet this part of the tunnel and to, cover up that terrain mostly. And then I decided I wanted to do something kind of similar up in the roof. So I decided I'm gonna just kind of put this up here and see what happens, see what it looks like, see what it covers. And then I went ahead and brought another one down and decided, okay, I'm gonna just give it a little bit of just different in height as you come down through here with the roof, where it's gonna change height a little bit. I thought it came out pretty interesting. As you come down, you have just different little pieces of the roof that are at different heights as you come through here. I was trying to just cover that one little corner. So I'm kind of looking around, seeing what it looks like, decide that I need to extend that one out, and I'm backing up so that as you come, down into the tunnel, what's the look, what's the feel. So I left it there for right there, and we're gonna go back to the walls, and so I'm gonna see how much of this gets covered, how close I need to get to the curb, get the right angle to kind of see better, and also be able to see the where they meet. So it is hard to build in these spaces sometimes. It's tight space, so sorry about the camera views. And we're gonna put this one here, and then I decided I'm gonna go, I think, to the other side, and we're gonna meet this way and go ahead and start from this part of the path. I had really hoped it would line up. It looked like it was, but when I set it down, it's like, oh man, it doesn't. It's at a different angle. So onward we go, wall by wall, turning them and getting them lined up. So I liked how that came in, and we'll go ahead and duplicate this one, see how it kind of looks like it might meet up with that one. And I'm gonna go ahead and give it that little spin. I had hoped we were getting close to meeting, so to speak, but maybe we will. Woohoo! We finally meet. So I'm gonna go ahead and push this wall around until they, have a nice junction there, and go back to the ceiling. So we're gonna fill this in. So I knew that was why I finished the wall, was to know how far I needed to go with the ceiling. But I do kind of bounce back and forth sometimes. I just get bored or tired, or I don't want to use that part of my brain, so to speak. And so I'm gonna go ahead and bring this to go in there and kind of complete the ceiling here, and then a little more at this level to cover up our terrain. And then it does look like I may need to, because they're on different grids a little bit, make these meet a little differently. So I'm looking at what that looks like, and I'm also a little concerned about, are my guests' heads going to end up in the roof? So I'm trying to use shift to kind of just shift that up a little bit right here to kind of get rid of that gap, and it was just not playing nice. So I went ahead and got into the other group, and let's see if I get, there we go. And I finally got it, because we do have several groups going, and it looks like we're just a little smidge off from the group that I sampled from for that one little bit of roof. And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm just kind of feeling it out, seeing, does that bother me that much? Do I want to put something there? I ended up not. And so here we are at the entrance of our zoo. So I finally did fix the post here on the binturong. Really, I just sunk it down so you can kind of see that last beam a little bit in the ground. And there they are. That's a good view. I did 2 walkthroughs. I kept this one because the binturongs were out. My second one, they weren't right here. I had to go searching for them. But I really enjoyed that view of the binturongs, so I kept that. So if you go this way, you can go down the bear tunnel right away. And then if you go this way, you have the other end of the binturong pass. And to the right, we have our sun bears, which they're not over here right now. And then over there is the look through for the Himalayan brown bear. And I finally did fix that sign. It's not in this walkthrough, but I walked through again and fixed it. But I wasn't too crazy about where the bears were, what they were doing. And I also fixed a couple other things that I noticed as I was walking around waiting for the bears to be in great places. So it looks like we have one over here. So we're gonna go look at him. He's hanging out over by one of the feeders. And so you have I like the way that you have all these views. They're kind of close no matter where you go, except for, of course, the tunnel. You've got to catch them at the right moments. So we have the bear and our keeper. They're getting fed. So we're gonna go ahead and go down through the tunnel and look at the viewpoints we have. So we have something's gonna go there eventually. Not sure what. I'm thinking another bear. And then we have, bear tunnel. So I just put a little decoration there. And there goes some baby bears. They're running down the slope. How cute. And there's 2 baby bears. There's the other one. And off it goes. So we're going to get a little better view here maybe. There we go. And you can watch him scamper off into the rest of the habitat. And so I redid. I wanted to show, so I did change right here, those signs. But I was happy with the animal activity from that other walkthrough, so I did want to share it. It's lovely when they behave the way you want them to. A lot of times they don't. I had spent quite a bit of time kind of standing and waiting for them. Let's see what the sun bears are doing. Are they over here? Can we see them really quick? There they are. You got one climbing down on the sleepy space. Here he goes. And you got one just passed out. All right, let's go back to the habitat that we finished. Oh, look, the babies, they're right here. You have mama bear, probably, and the baby bears. It seems the baby bears will follow mom quite a bit. Oh, mom says, I'm taking a nap. Forget you guys. And off they go. They're so cute. And let's see, let's go. I'm trying to get a little bit better view. And for a screenshot, that's cute. And let's go around this way. Let's see if we can get in here and get a good one. Oh, how cute. Oh, I didn't get in there fast enough. Dang it. I wanted to get through that glass and get a little picture of the bear as he walked up to his mom. That was super cute. We're going to go over here and see what they're doing. The bear says, hey, Dad, what are you doing? You're sleeping too? Why are you sleeping? And we're going to back over here. Let's see what they're doing. Oh, I can't see. Well, all right. I was hoping for maybe they'd come back and I could get that same interaction, but they're not. They're just scampering back and forth between sleepy mom and sleepy dad. So play with us. Please play with us. That's so cute. Alrighty. So we're going to go this way like we did before and back around. And we're going to take a peek, see what they're doing. Yeah, they're not. They're still hanging out over there. Bad bears, wake up from your nap. I was hoping one of them would wake up by now and start moving. So they're not moving. Let's see. I'll go back over here. Take a look at them. That's so cute. I do love the babies. I'm waiting to see I know the other one's asleep in that little sleepy den over there. I'm gonna go ahead and step into the habitat so the glass isn't in the way. Oh, one of them's up. Yeah. Hopefully they're gonna get on that terrain ramp. Let me see. I was thinking about walking down the tunnel. Let's go around here and see where that bear, if it's gonna be visible from over here. It looks like maybe they're gonna come this way. I hope they do. I was really hoping to get another good view of the bear from right here, but I didn't. So we're gonna go ahead and go down here. I think one of them got in the water. So let's look up and see if they're swimming. And there they are. There's one bear, and I think there's another one. Let's see. Let's back up. I could have sworn I saw two. Yep, there it is. There's that baby bear swimming along. So they really do like to swim across this. They go back and forth. So I'm happy I put that in for them. And then we're going to go and see if maybe one of the bears, we can see them from over here and utilize, all the little viewing points that are in this walkthrough. So there's the new rendition of my bear ramp with the rocks. I used the snow ones. I couldn't get them to come over here, so I threw one in, and there it is. And it's thinking about where it wants to go. And let's see. It's gonna take off, I think. It's looking, and there it goes. It says bye. So I'm gonna pause it there and take a picture. Thank you so much for checking out my bear habitat. Next week, we're gonna continue with building our gondola ride at the entrance. So that will be our new entrance, kind of. I'm gonna see about kind of moving things around. I need to read up on some of the changes they made to the spawners and franchise mode. I know it's gone back and forth, but right over here is where it's gonna go. So if you haven't already, hit the like button, subscribe. I hope you have a great day. May the RNG odds be ever in your favor.